Marvel's The Eternals is almost here. In fact, today, the date of recording this video, is when the world premiere will happen for that movie over in LA. But there's a lot of mystery surrounding the Eternals project. We know it's one of the longest Marvel movies ever. And a lot of different producers and people over at Marvel are saying it's going to change the MCU forever. And in fact, a recent little tidbit coming out from an insider has a lot of Marvel fans scratching their heads. What could this mean, and what the heck is actually going to happen in Marvel's The Eternals? I want to break it down for you, and we'll keep it mostly spoiler-free until the end of the video, because I know you guys don't love that all the time, so let's get into it. What is up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerdventures Tower as per usual. I'm pretty excited about the Eternals, but a lot of the discussion around the Eternals is confusing me and confusing other Marvel fans out there. And I want to show you this because I think this will really serve to sort of set us up for a preview of what is to come for Marvel's The Eternals. This is coming from Big Screen Leaks, who I do think is a pretty reliable source. He's got a lot of good sources, does a lot of good information and reporting out there. He says here, I'm hearing some incredible things about Eternals. I was told it was akin to The Boys or Invincible, where it seemed like a whole brand new world of heroes were introduced to, and we totally buy into it. And he follows up here because this kind of blew up, right? This tweet kind of blew up. It says, I think people are misunderstanding what I said or taking it out of context. I used Invincible and The Boys as comparisons to us already going into this established world of superheroes despite not knowing anything to it prior. So I actually have a different theory as to why he was told it's akin to The Boys or Invincible, and I sort of want to break that down for you guys right now, okay? So what do we know about the Eternals just from the base level marketing, right? We know that they are here to protect humanity against the Deviants. They were created in the comics by the Celestials, and that appears to also be the case in the MCU. And they were told not to interfere with anything unless it involved the Deviants, okay? So they've apparently been here all throughout history. They have a long, long legacy of being here on the planet, watching over humankind from the threats of the Deviants. And I think at a base level here, like, this is something we've been talking about for a while, like the idea of the Celestials, showing the Celestials messing with early humans, creating the Eternals, but perhaps even creating some of the mutants, as there are reports out there that there's a connection between the Eternals and Wakanda Forever, and we think maybe that's Namor and the idea of the mutant gene. This is a big deal, recontextualizing a lot of the history of the MCU. 7,000 years of history is apparently going to be covered, maybe even more, in the film. And we've heard producers like Nate Moore say about 40% of the movie is going to happen in the past and contextualize what is going on. Now, I think The Boys and the Invincible idea and that comparison is really actually apt. And you might be like confused, right? Because the instant thing you go to is just how violent The Boys was and how crazy violent Invincible was. And you're like, wait, what? But from a canon building perspective, two very important things happen in the world building of both of those shows. So let's talk about The Boys first. The Boys has to do with Compound V, and at first we are introduced to this world where there just are superheroes. Certain people are just gifted with powers, and you totally understand that. Now, eventually you come to realize that Compound V is what created all these superheroes, and that Vought as a company was actually bringing in young people, having people sign NDAs, and injecting kids with Compound V to actually create superheroes. So none of the superheroes are naturally occurring. They are instead created. And that's like a big shocking thing. And they even take it further in the second episode. Okay. And so let's just talk about that for a second. You get this sort of established world. You're introduced to it. You sort of understand the Seven. And then slowly over time, you realize that the Seven, Vought, And the superheroes that exist in this world have a different backstory than the ones we thought of. Okay, so that's a really, really interesting and important note. Now, let's talk about Invincible. Invincible does something very similar. We are told that Omni-Man is just a representative of the Viltrumite Empire, and he's here to help and to protect us, okay? And that there's this established thing. He loves humanity. He's been here for a while, 20 years, helping us out, helping fight crime. And there are other superpowered people and things happening, but by and large, he's a good guy. You come to find out that's not actually what is going on. And instead, the Viltrumite Empire is this savage, horrible, oppressive, authoritarian empire that killed half of their own people. And that Omni-Man's actual reason for being here is not to be good and kind, but instead to get us ready for an eventual takeover by the Viltrum Empire. Okay, so what is going on in both of these different examples? You're sort of led to believe a certain thing in the world building. You get this sort of all established, and then you get that flipped on its head. In The Boys, it's all about Compound V being the real thing that created all the heroes, including Homelander. And in Invincible, it's the fact that the Viltrum Empire and Omni-Man is not here to be good. Okay, and so how could something like that be happening in the Eternals? Well, let's just talk about again, what is the base level idea that we were all working with here? That the Eternals were created by the Celestials to help protect human beings from the Deviants. What I will tell you before getting into some of the rumors and spoilers and speculation, just at a base level here, I believe it will be revealed that the actual nature of the Eternals and what they are actually on Earth to do is not that bevy of lies and that original story that we are getting, okay? Now, again, before getting into some of the spoilery stuff, I want to sort of linger on this idea because I think the Eternals film in and of itself is going to really establish some fundamental principles by which the MCU, the multiverse, magic, the power cosmic, all of these different things kind of work together. Because we can see that the Eternals all have different kinds of abilities. Some of them can do crazy magic. Some of them are just really powerful and strong fighters. They all seem to be able to use some kind of power, to use that sort of golden stuff to like make weapons and punch and do all that sort of stuff. It reminds me a lot of the protection spell that Doctor Strange Supreme cast in the What If show to create a similar type of protection and effect. So the question is that magic or is that science? And I believe that what the Celestials actually are, their true nature, and how they are able to imbue the Eternals with power is going to establish a lot of these rules and a lot of principles. Like, for instance, I don't think it's a mistake that we have Shang-Chi and these 10 rings, and we're learning about the Dweller in Darkness and Tao Lao and how that was once a futuristic society that was, sort of destroyed by these dark entities, and that this magic artifact or this set of magic artifacts, the 10 rings, might also be technological. I don't think that it's an accident that Feige had that movie established, and then we're going to go into Eternals. I think more of that is going to be explored as far as what is magic versus science and what are the principles of the universe, maybe even the multiverse that Marvel exists in. Again, a lot of this stuff is all just tying together for a long, long thread that's going to pull everything together and set up future events. So that's kind of a base level of what I think is going on with the Eternals. But now I'm going to give you a spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear any of the rumors and crazy things that are going on, get on out of here. But I will now be talking about some of the leaks and why I think they're not only real, but they also lead into this idea of the Boys comparison and the Invincible comparison. Okay, so are you ready? Are you good? Okay, here we go. The big rumor is that the Eternals themselves are going to kind of be advanced androids. They're not actually going to be organic beings. They are literally created and given their abilities, which we think we see in one of the trailers when those golden balls like go into their chest and like activate them, so to speak. That's pretty crazy in and of itself. But further than that, the apparent explanation for this is that the Celestials create the Eternals to, yes, help foster organic life. But the reason they are doing this, the reason the organic life is being fostered is so that a celestial egg, which is buried inside of, in this case, Earth, but in past cases, other planets, that this celestial egg is feeding off of the life energy of the lower level life forms that live on the surface. So the Eternals are basically tasked with helping humanity survive and not be eliminated by the Deviants, but all of that is done in order for the celestial egg to be incubating and taking all of their life energy to eventually have the power to be able to hatch, breaking up the earth, destroying it, killing all of the people. According to the leaks, the Eternals will realize that they've had their memories wiped before. They have done this many, many different times throughout the existence of their very, very long lifetime. And they are just, basically here to keep humanity safe, just so that we can basically be food for the Celestials. That sounds very much like what's happening in the Boys and the Invincible comic run, right? Where you have one idea set up and then a wider idea or the truth really breaks it open and sets up that establishing rule. Now, I'll take this one step further just because I think it's wild. I've been thinking a lot about the Darkhold, about the Dweller in Darkness, about Wanda, and about that line from Thor where he's talking about how technology, science, and magic are all really the same. And again, I think there's principles here that could be established with how the Celestials work. What is the cosmic ebb and flow of life in our universe, in universes past, and perhaps even parallel universes? And I can't help but think this will all lead us to a place where technology, far beyond anything we are capable of in the universe, will be established as sort of being the Beyonders. And I think the Beyonders from Marvel Comics, which literally exist beyond everything and treat all of the multiverse as an experiment, I think the long play here is to establish that things like the 10 rings and perhaps even some of the technology that Kang has access to is somehow connected to technology that is the Beyonders, which essentially can play around with the material building blocks of our universe as though they were just something you could manipulate, right? Like power beyond everything we are capable of, perhaps how and why the TVA is able to exist in the way that it does. All of these different things will just be rules set up by advanced technology by the Beyonders. And that's kind of just my theory. But regardless, guys, wild stuff coming for the Eternals. I wanted to make this video talking about what I thought this viral tweet was really talking about here and just kind of open us up to the possibilities of what we'll see in the Eternals. I'm excited for this movie. I think it's gonna be really, really cool. I'm looking forward to the character development and some of the fun stuff in the film, but also that world building for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the multiverse, really, and the potential for established rules that will lead us to a Secret Wars, lead us to understanding how all of this will work together. I'm pretty freaking excited for it. I hope you are too. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to our channel to see more of our content, pop up in your recommended feed, and go check out our live streaming channel where we talk about all kinds of fun, nerdy stuff all throughout the week. We were just talking about the delays for the 2022 slate. That happened while we were live and we went over it together. So you're definitely missing out on good content if you're not going over there. So go check it out. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video.